The rain fell hard on the stone courtyard. Every drop echoed like a warning. Inside the towering palace gates, a royal guard stood frozen. His name was Corporal James Thornton. He had served the crown for 12 years. He had never disobeyed an order. Not once. Until today. Queen Camilla stood before him, her face tight with anger. Her voice was sharp, cutting through the cold air like a blade. "Move aside, Corporal. That is a direct command." But James didn't move. His jaw was set. His eyes stayed forward. Behind him, through the heavy oak doors, was a room where something was happening. Something the world wasn't supposed to see yet. Camilla stepped closer. Her heels clicked on the wet stone. Rain dripped from the edge of her umbrella. She raised her hand, pointing toward the door. "I will not ask you again." James swallowed hard. His heart pounded in his chest. He could feel the weight of his uniform. The medals on his chest felt heavier than ever. He knew what this moment meant. He knew what he was risking, but he also knew what was right. And if you want to see how this unfolds, make sure you're subscribed, because this story gets even more intense. And you won't want to miss what happens next inside that room. Prince William stood beside his daughter, Princess Charlotte. She was only 9 years old, but her eyes were steady, calm. She had asked to speak, and William had agreed. This was her moment, but Camilla wanted to stop it. She wanted to control it. She wanted to decide what happened next, as she had done so many times before. And when James refused to let her pass, everything changed. The rain grew louder. The wind howled through the arches of the old palace. Somewhere in the distance, a bell rang. It was 3 in the afternoon. James could hear footsteps approaching from behind Camilla. More guards. Perhaps officials? He didn't turn to look. He kept his eyes on the woman in front of him. "You're making a mistake," Camilla said. Her voice was quieter now. Almost a whisper. But it wasn't softer. It was colder. James finally spoke. His voice was low, but firm. "With respect, Your Majesty, I serve the crown, not any one person." Camilla's face went pale. For a moment, she said nothing. Then her lips pressed into a thin line. She turned her head slightly, glancing at the guards approaching behind her. But before she could give another order, the door behind James opened. Prince William stepped out. The courtyard went silent. Even the rain seemed to pause. William's face was serious. His eyes moved from Camilla to James, then back to Camilla. "That's enough," William said. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried weight. The kind of weight that comes from years of waiting, years of watching, years of knowing that one day it would be his turn to lead. Camilla straightened her posture. She opened her mouth to speak, but William raised a hand. "Charlotte is speaking," he said, "and everyone will hear what she has to say." Behind him, through the open door, a small figure appeared. Princess Charlotte stepped forward. Her dress was simple. Navy blue with a white collar. Her hair was pulled back. She looked younger than her years. But her expression was strong. She looked at her father. He nodded. Then she looked at Camilla, and in that moment, everything in the palace shifted. Princess Charlotte's voice was soft, but it filled the courtyard. "I need to tell the truth." Camilla's eyes flickered with something surprise, maybe anger. She took a step back, but she didn't leave. She couldn't. Not now. Not with William standing there. Not with the guards watching. Charlotte walked slowly toward the center of the courtyard. Her small shoes clicked on the stone. William stayed close behind her, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. She stopped a few feet from Camilla and looked up. "My grandmother taught me something," Charlotte said. "She taught me that being royal means serving people, not controlling them." Camilla's jaw tightened. Her hands gripped the handle of her umbrella. The rain had slowed to a drizzle now, but the air was still cold. "Still tense," Charlotte continued. Her voice didn't shake. "Last week something happened. Something that wasn't right, and I saw it." William's face remained calm, but his eyes were sharp. He was watching Camilla closely. James, still standing by the door, didn't move. He barely breathed. Charlotte took a breath. She glanced back at the doorway. Inside, standing in the shadows, was her older brother, Prince George. He was 11. Tall for his age, he watched from the darkness, his arms crossed. He didn't step forward, but his presence was felt. Charlotte looked back at Camilla. You told the staff to hide letters. Letters that were meant for my father. Letters from people who needed help. You said they weren't important? The words landed like stones in water. Ripples spread across the courtyard. One of the guards shifted his weight. Another looked down at the ground. Camilla's face flushed red. She opened her mouth, but before she could speak, Charlotte went on. One of those letters was from a woman whose son was sick. She wrote to my father asking for help. She thought the royal family could help her find a doctor, but you threw the letter away. William's hand tightened slightly on Charlotte's shoulder. Not to stop her. To support her, found it in the wastebin, Charlotte said. I brought it to my father, and he helped her. But it was almost too late. Silence. The kind of silence that cuts through everything. The kind that makes people hold their breath. Camilla finally spoke. Her voice was low, controlled. You don't understand the pressures of this role, child. There are thousands of letters. We can't respond to all of them, but you can't throw them away, Charlotte said. Her voice was louder now, stronger. You can't decide who matters and who doesn't. William stepped forward, standing beside his daughter. She's right, he said. And this isn't the first time. Camilla's eyes snapped to William. There was fire in them now. Real anger? You're letting a child speak for you? She said. I'm letting her speak for herself, William replied. Something you've never allowed. The tension was thick, heavy. It pressed down on everyone in the courtyard. James could feel sweat on his neck despite the cold. He didn't know what would happen next. Then, from the shadows of the doorway, George spoke. I saw it too. His voice was deeper than Charlotte's. Calm, steady. He stepped forward into the light. He stood beside his sister and his father. I saw the letters. I saw what you did. And I'm old enough to know it was wrong. Camilla looked at the three of them, William, Charlotte, George, and, for the first time, she seemed uncertain. The control she always had, the authority she carried, it was slipping. This is not how things are done, she said quietly. No, William said. This is exactly how things should be done. He turned to James. Thank you, Corporal. You did the right thing. James nodded once. Relief washed over him. William looked back at Camilla. Sends today. Camilla stood in the rain, her umbrella trembling slightly in her hand. Her breathing was shallow. Fast. She looked at William, then at the children, then back at William. Shh. You're making a scene, she said through gritted teeth. No, William replied. I'm ending one. He turned to the guards standing nearby. Clear the courtyard. This is a private family matter now. The guards hesitated. They looked at Camilla, then at William. Protocol was unclear in moments like this. Who did they listen to? The Queen Consort or the Prince of Wales? William's voice came again, firmer this time. That's an order. One by one, the guards stepped back. They moved toward the edges of the courtyard, giving space, but still present. James remained at his post by the door. He wasn't going anywhere. Camilla's face twisted with frustration. She pointed a finger at William. Your father will hear about this. Good, William said. He should. Charlotte tugged gently on her father's sleeve. He looked down at her. She whispered something. He nodded. Then Charlotte looked at Camilla again. I don't want to be mean to you, she said. But I can't let you hurt people. Those words hit harder than any accusation. They were pure, honest, a child's truth. Camilla's expression softened for just a moment, just a flicker. But then the hardness returned. You don't understand what it takes to protect this family, Camilla said. The choices I have to make protect. George interrupted. His voice was sharp. You weren't protecting anyone. You were protecting yourself. William placed a hand on George's shoulder, steadying him. But he didn't correct him. Camilla's lips trembled. She looked like she wanted to say something, But the words didn't come. Instead, she turned her gaze to the ground. The rain began to pick up again. Heavier this time. The sky darkened. Thunder rumbled in the distance. William spoke again, his tone gentler now, but no less firm. Camilla, you've done good things for this family. I know that. But this can't continue. You can't make decisions that affect people's lives without accountability. Not anymore. Camilla's head snapped up. And who will hold you accountable, William? When you're king. Who will stop you from making mistakes? William didn't flinch. They will, he said, gesturing to Charlotte and George. The people. The truth. That's who. Camilla shook her head slowly. She looked exhausted, defeated. You're naive, she whispered. Maybe, William said, but I'd rather be naive than cruel. The words hung in the air. No one moved. No one spoke. Then Charlotte did something no one expected. She walked up to Camilla and held out her hand. Camilla looked down at the small hand extended toward her. Confusion crossed her face. I don't hate you, Charlotte said quietly, but you have to do better. For a long moment, Camilla just stared at the child's hand. Her expression was unreadable. Then slowly she reached out and took it. It wasn't a handshake. It was something softer, something sadder. Camilla's eyes glistened. She blinked quickly, looking away. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she said, her voice barely audible. I know, Charlotte said, but it did. Camilla pulled her hand back. She straightened her posture, wiped her eyes quickly, and looked at William. What happens now? She asked. William took a deep breath. Now we fix it. The palace halls were quieter than usual that evening. Word had spread quickly. Staff whispered in corners. Officials exchanged glances. Something had happened. Something big. In a private sitting room, William sat across from his father, King Charles. The room was dimly lit. A fire crackled in the hearth. Outside, the rain continued to fall. Charles looked tired, older than usual. He held a cup of tea in his hands but hadn't taken a sip. Tell me exactly what happened, Charles said. William explained everything. The letters. Charlotte's discovery. Camilla's orders. The confrontation in the courtyard. Charles listened in silence. His face gave nothing away. When William finished, the room was quiet for a long time. Finally, Charles set down his tea. She was trying to protect me, he said quietly. By lying? William asked. By filtering, Charles said. By managing the impossible weight of expectation. William leaned forward. Father, I understand that. But she crossed a line. She made decisions that hurt people. And she hid it. Charles nodded slowly. I know. He stood and walked to the window. He looked out at the rain, his hands clasped behind his back. Your mother would have handled this differently, he said. William's chest tightened. He didn't respond. Charles turned to face him. She would have been proud of Charlotte. And of you. William's eyes softened. Thank you, he said quietly. Charles walked back and sat down. Camilla will step back from certain duties, he said. Not as punishment, but as recalibration. She needs time. We all do. And the letters? William asked. They'll be reviewed. Everyone that was discarded will make it right. William nodded. Good. Charles looked at his son for a long moment. You're ready, you know, he said. For what? For all of this? For what comes next? William didn't reply. He didn't need to. Across the palace in her bedroom, Charlotte sat by the window. George was with her. They didn't say much. They just sat together watching the rain. Do you think we did the right thing? Charlotte asked. George nodded. Yeah, I do. Grandmother would have liked it, Charlotte said softly. She would have loved it, George corrected. Charlotte smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. Asterisk in another part of the palace. Camilla sat alone in her study. The room was dark, except for a single lamp. She stared at a photograph on her desk. It was of her and Charles on their wedding day. She touched the frame lightly. Sorry, she whispered to no one. A knock came at the door. Come in, she said. The door opened. It was William. Camilla straightened in her chair, her face guarded. William walked in and closed the door behind him. He didn't sit. He stood near the desk. Didn't come here to argue, he said. Camilla nodded slowly. Then why did you come? Because I need you to understand something, William said. This family isn't about power. It's about service. And if we forget that, we lose everything. Camilla's eyes filled with tears again. She looked away. I never meant to hurt anyone, she said. I believe you, William said. But intent doesn't erase harm, she nodded. William softened his tone. You can still be part of this. But not like before. Not in the shadows. In the light, where everyone can see. Camilla looked at him, surprised. You're giving me a chance? Charlotte gave you a chance, William said. I'm just following her lead. He turned to leave, then paused at the door. She's 9 years old, he said, and she understands what it means to serve better than most people twice her age. He left without another word. Camilla sat in the silence. She picked up the photograph again. This time, she held it close. 3 days later, a public statement was released. It was brief. Carefully worded, it announced that Queen Camilla would be stepping back from certain public duties to focus on personal reflection and family matters. The media exploded with speculation. Headlines screamed. Reporters camped outside the palace gates. Everyone wanted to know what had really happened. But inside the palace, life moved forward quietly. Charlotte returned to her lessons. George went back to his routines. William resumed his duties with renewed focus. And Camilla stayed out of sight, but something had changed. The staff noticed it first. William started reviewing correspondence himself. He set up a new system. Every letter, every request would be logged. Nothing would be ignored. Nothing would be hidden. He also announced a new initiative. A public forum where people could submit concerns directly to the royal household. Transparency, he said, was the future. The public response was overwhelming. Letters poured in, messages of support, stories of hope. People felt heard for the first time in years. Charlotte watched from the sidelines. She didn't seek attention. She didn't want credit. She just wanted to know that she had done something good. One afternoon, she received a letter of her own. It was delivered to her personally by one of the staff. The envelope, simple, handwritten, no return address. Charlotte opened it carefully. Inside was a single sheet of paper. The handwriting was shaky, but clear. Dear Princess Charlotte, asterisk, my name is Margaret. You don't know me, but you saved my son's life. Your father helped us find the doctor we needed. My boy is getting better now. I don't have much to give, but I wanted to say thank you. You are brave. You are kind. You are everything a princess should be. With all my love, Margaret. Charlotte read the letter twice. Then a third time. Her eyes filled with tears, but she was smiling. She folded the letter carefully and held it close to her chest. George walked into the room and saw her. You okay? He asked. She nodded, wiping her eyes. Yeah, I'm really okay. That evening, William found Charlotte in the library. She was curled up in a chair, reading. He sat down beside her. I heard you got a letter, he said. Charlotte nodded. From Margaret. The woman with the sick son? William smiled. That's wonderful. Charlotte looked up at him. Do you think we'll really change things, Papa? William thought for a moment. I don't know, he said honestly, but I think we'll try. And sometimes, that's enough. Charlotte leaned her head against his shoulder. I miss her, she said softly. William didn't need to ask who. He wrapped his arm around her. I do too. They sat in silence for a while. Just the two of them? The library was warm. Peaceful. Outside, the rain had finally stopped. The sky was clearing. Stars began to appear. Across the palace, Camilla stood at her window. She watched the stars too. She thought about the choices she had made, the mistakes, the intentions behind them. She thought about Charlotte's hand reaching out to her, about William's words, about the chance she had been given. She didn't know if she deserved it, but she was grateful for it. She picked up a pen and began to write. A letter, an apology, not a public one, a private one. To the people she had wronged, it was a start. In his office, King Charles read over the new policies William had drafted. He made notes in the margins, adjustments, suggestions, but he didn't change the core of them. He trusted his son. He thought about Diana, about how proud she would be, about how much Charlotte reminded him of her. He closed the folder and leaned back in his chair. "Well done, William," he whispered to the empty room. Weeks passed. The storm, both literal and figurative, had settled. Life at the palace found a new rhythm, one that felt different. Lighter somehow, Camilla slowly began to reemerge. Not in the same way. She attended smaller events, quieter ones. She listened more, spoke less. And when she did speak, her words were softer, more thoughtful. At a charity event for children's hospitals, she gave a short speech. She didn't mention the incident, but her message was clear. "We serve because it is our duty," she said. "But more than that, we serve because it is right. And when we forget that, we must be reminded." Even if that reminder comes from the smallest voice in the room, people noticed. Some forgave her. Others didn't. But she kept going. Charlotte watched the speech on a screen in the palace. William was beside her. "She's trying," Charlotte said. "She is," William agreed. "Is that enough?" Charlotte asked. William thought carefully. "It's a start, and starts matter." Charlotte nodded. On a bright Saturday morning, Charlotte and George were allowed to visit the woman named Margaret. It was a private visit. No press, no cameras. Just a quiet trip to a modest home on the outskirts of London. Margaret answered the door with tears in her eyes. She hugged Charlotte tightly. Too tightly, maybe, but Charlotte didn't mind. Inside, her son, a boy named Thomas, sat on the couch. He was thin, still recovering, but his eyes were bright. He smiled when he saw the princess. "You're really her," he said. Charlotte laughed. "I'm really me." They spent the afternoon together, talking, laughing, playing board games. It was simple, normal, beautiful. When it was time to leave, Margaret walked them to the car. "Thank you," she said again, "for everything." Charlotte hugged her once more. "You don't have to thank me," she said. "Just take care of Thomas." "I will," Margaret promised. As the car pulled away, Charlotte waved through the window. George sat beside her, quiet but smiling. "That felt good," he said. "Yeah," Charlotte agreed. It really did. Back at the palace, life continued. But it was different now. The halls felt less heavy, the faces less guarded. William walked through the gardens one evening. The flowers were blooming again after the rain. The air smelled fresh, clean. He thought about his mother, about her legacy, about the kind of king he wanted to be. He thought about Charlotte's courage, about George's quiet strength, about the future they would inherit. And he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope in the library. Charlotte sat with her journal. She wrote about the past few weeks, about standing in the rain, about speaking her truth, about the letter from Margaret. She ended her entry with a single line. "Sometimes the smallest voices make the biggest difference." She closed the journal and looked out the window. The sun was setting. The sky was painted in shades of gold and pink. George appeared in the doorway. "Papa says dinner's ready." Charlotte stood and followed him. They walked together through the palace halls. Their footsteps echoed softly. At the dinner table, William, Charlotte, and George sat together. It was a small family meal. Simple food. Warm conversation. They talked about their day. About nothing and everything. They laughed. They teased each other. They were just a family. And for a little while, the weight of crowns and titles and duty faded away. Somewhere in the palace, Camilla ate alone. But she didn't feel lonely. She felt something else. Something harder to name. She felt accountable. And strangely, That brought her peace. King Charles sat in his study, reading letters from the public. The new system was working. People were being heard. Problems were being solved. He smiled to himself. "This is how it should be," he murmured. Outside, the stars shone brightly over the palace. The rain was gone. The sky was clear, and in the courtyard where it all began, Corporal James Thornton stood at his post. The same post he had held that rainy afternoon. He thought about the choice he had made, the risk he had taken, the stand he had held. He didn't regret it. Not for a second, because he had learned something that day. Sometimes doing the right thing means standing in someone's way. And sometimes the future of a kingdom rests on the courage of a single choice. Charlotte's voice, William's strength, George's witness, James's stand. Together, they had changed something. Not everything, but something, and that was enough. The palace lights glowed warmly in the night. Inside, a family healed. Outside, a nation watched, and in the heart of it all, a 9-year-old girl who had dared to speak. Her words had echoed through stone walls and into history, and they would not be forgotten.